Welcome in to another edition of Primetime Preps. Brad Caldwell, Bill Harshaw here to bring you all of the latest high school football action. And Bill, we're getting down to a time that I don't know that a lot of people thought that we would even get to this year. We've got state finals action coming up on Saturday in the 7A and the 6A.
That's right. It's coming in real quick. When we didn't know if we was going to make it to this part of the season, several weeks ago. But here we are. It's finals week for a lot of these schools, and we look across, the teams that are going to be facing off in the finals, and some of these teams have already faced each other before this year.
Yeah, both sets of finals this weekend are conference foes as they get ready to take on each other here at War Memorial Stadium, getting ready to get some big-time matchups, some prime-time matchups, if you will, Bill. And, man, we have got some awesome matchups as Bryant will take on North Little Rock in the 7A at 12 o'clock. And then about 6:40 p.m., you've got Greenwood and Lake Hamilton, which gets us to, I should say, what went down in prime time. And what went down in prime time this week was a big victory for both Class 7A and teams, Greenwood and Lake Hamilton, and Bryant and North Little Rock. And Bill, just getting it kicked off, Bryant with a 56-13 victory over Conway.
And listen, that was the Hayden Schrader show. Hayden Schrader, the big tight end out of Bryant. He's been a big go-to guy for quarterback Austin Ledbetter. And so he was definitely one of the ones that Ledbetter was looking at again when Bryant took on Conway, a team that Bryant has already beaten once this season. This time they didn't hang 70 on the Wampus Cats, but they went over 500 yards versus Conway.
56 points. Bryant just seems to be unstoppable right now. I'm sure that North Little Rock's going to have something to say about that. But, wow, I mean, the Bryant offense has just been incredible, and it just doesn't seem like there's anybody out there that can score enough points to beat them. Of course, that defense is pretty good too, allowing 13 to Conway, who Conway has scored on everybody this year. Moving on into the other matchup, North Little Rock and Cabot, I should say. Those two matched up, and what a great matchup that was. 49-42 was the score there, North Little Rock, with a 7-point victory to push them into the finals.
And that's a huge, huge win for the Charging Wildcats from North Little Rock. Cabot was able to put 532 yards of offense on North Little Rock. Tyler Gee, the quarterback, accounted for 492 yards himself. And so that was a big-time game for both teams. It looks like it came down to the final few seconds of that game with the quarterback for North Little Rock, Kareem Cotton, sneaking in for the final score. Only 17 seconds left in the game to take that 7-point win.
As we talked about last week in the 6A matchup, we had Greenwood 51-7 over Marion, and we basically said that Cinderella, it was probably going to strike midnight on Cinderella, and sure enough, that's what happened as Greenwood picked Marion apart a little bit there in the semifinals. Marion making an unexpected run that deep into the playoffs.
And that was definitely a big time win for Greenwood. Marion was 4-7 coming into the game. They had a bye due to COVID issues with Benton. Benton had to forfeit their season at the hands of that. Marion, got the good end of that stick, I guess I should say, and able to come out to even play Greenwood. And then Greenwood, like you said, 51-7, a big win for the Bulldogs. And we're going to see them take on a Lake Hamilton team who took on Sylvan Hills last Friday. And, I watched that game. I was in the middle of moving and getting things organized and unpacking boxes, but I was able to watch some of that game. And, it was kind of a sleeper, good defensive game through the majority of it. And then the last quarter, it seems like it just kind of blew up and everybody was scoring there toward the end. Sylvan Hills was down by 7, got down, got the touchdown. and decided to go for the 2-point conversion in double overtime and fell 21-20, falling short on that 2-point conversion. So that was a really, really fantastic game to watch.
What a matchup that was there, and that was definitely the game of the week in 6A. Those two teams are so evenly matched. I called Sylvan Hills as a team that would make it in the state finals. Lake Hamilton showed me, no, that's not right. Lake Hamilton has been a tough foe this year, and they were tough on Greenwood. Probably gave Greenwood their best game of the season, and right now they've got a chance to try to unseat the big one. The biggest one of them all, Greenwood, and so that's going to be a tough matchup for them, but that's what you do when you get into the finals. You are looking for that tough matchup, and so good luck to both teams as they match up. We've got some classes that are in the semifinals. 5A and 2A are in the semifinals now, and 5A, Pulaski Academy pulled off a victory, 53-29 over Magnolia. Boy, I tell you, that PA team, they just put so much pressure on you, Bill, by playing the way that they play. It's just really, really tough to match what they do, and they do it so well because they do it on a weekly basis.
That's right, and that's we've seen that week in and week out where the PAs are pretty much unstoppable. And Magnolia, they're a good team in and of themselves. So to take that one on the chin, that was a pretty tough one for Magnolia.
Yeah, and Magnolia had a really good year this year, but it seems like that, when you run into Pulaski Academy, season over. I mean, that's just the way it is here in the state of Arkansas. I mean, I really think when you look at teams that can beat Pulaski Academy in the state, one of them is Bryant. I'm not sure who else can beat them. Greenwood, maybe.
Maybe.
Lake Hamilton. I don't know. I mean, North Little Rock. I mean, you're talking about a handful of teams. That can possibly beat them. And Wynn is the team that they're going to match up with. Wynn has played Pulaski Academy twice now in state finals, 2016, 2018, and, in even years, another 2020. They're going to play in the semifinals. It's going to be a tall order, but Wynn has the athletes to do it.
I think you're right. When you look at this team, they have been able to almost dominate just about every game that they have played. We knew the Texarkana was a good team coming into this game, and they put a big goose egg on the scoreboard last week against Texarkana. So Wynn, a 4-touchdown victory over a pretty good Texarkana team, that speaks volumes to me.
Oh, for sure. 28-0 victory. It looked like that game was actually pretty close up until the fourth quarter. And then the momentum seemed to roll in Wynn's favor. Carl Washington had 10 carries for 130 yards and a touchdown, a kid that we've heard his name more than once this year. Seems like he doesn't get a ton of carries, but when he does get them, he makes something happen with them. And then you've got Alonzo Holmes on the defensive side, has been big time there along with Timmy Watson. So it's going to be a matchup of contrasting styles. Wynn's going to ground and pound. They're not going to throw the ball very much. And it's going to be a great matchup there this weekend in the 5A semifinals. Also, in the semifinals, you've got Harrison taking on Little Rock Christian. Harrison has been a team that has fallen prey to Pulaski Academy over the last 2 seasons. Little Rock Christian, though, has been the only team in the state that could beat them. I really like this matchup this weekend, Bill. Don't think Little Rock Christian's quite as good as they've been over the past few years, but they're still very good to make it to the semifinals. And then you've got a Harrison team led by Cole Kaelin, who is going to put some points on the board.
That's right. Cole Kaelin last week, big-time performance by him. He had 10 of 12 for 149 yards and 2 touchdowns in the air. He is one of those versatile quarterbacks that can also run the football, and he ran for almost $150 last week against Whitehall. And so we know that Cole Kaelin is a stud before that Harrison Goblin offense, and we'll see what he can do against Little Rock Christian this week.
Yeah, and I mentioned 2A was in the semifinals. You've got Ozark and Junction City taking on each other. That's a rematch of a state finals from a couple years back, and Junction City beat them 60-0 in the final. That was tough for the Eagles, but also, Ozark. I need to look at the bracket. I think they may be hosting that game, but Junction City. We've said this before. You don't want to see Junction City on the bracket. And then you've got Gurdon and Fordyce, who may be the two best teams in 2A, taking each other on in the other semifinal.
That's right. Ozark, took on a very good Bigelow team. If I believe correctly, Bigelow was undefeated going into the Ozark game. Ozark kind of manhandled them and beat them 38-22. And then you mentioned Gurdon and Fordyce, and I think those are, in my opinion, two of the best teams in 2A. Ozark would probably be one that would fall in behind that. Gurdon was able to manhandle East Poinsett County 53-6, and then Foreman, a team who had dominated the playoffs up until last week, took it on the chin to Fordyce 47-8. And so those were two games that are going to set up a big time matchup, Gurdon and Fordyce this week. I think that's going to be a big game. Ozark, they have their hands full with Junction City and see what they can do with the Dragons.
Oh, for sure. It's going to be tough there. It's going to be tough sledding, but hey, you know what? Again, you're in the state semifinals, so that's what happens.
That's what you expect, right?
Quarterfinal matchups that's right. Quarterfinal matchups in the 4A and the 3A. We've got, of course, going back to the second round matchups. Shiloh beat Malvern 28-0. Shiloh is in rare form right now. I say rare form. It's actually very familiar form with them. They're going to get a chance to host Dumas, who picked up a 36-30 victory over Gosnell. I shouldn't say that right. We got Prescott and Gosnell.
That's it.
Say it right. That being said, big time matchup there, Shiloh and Dumas. Stuttgart and Ozark is another one that's going to be kind of an all-name matchup in the 4A. Stuttgart beat Joe T. Robinson. We've got Coach Josh Price going to talk to us about his Rice Birds as they move into quarterfinal action in the 4A. They get to take on Ozark 40-14 victors over Pocahontas. That's a big victory for Ozark. As we had said before, Pocahontas may be a little bit better than what we had thought.
That's right. We knew that Pocahontas was a good team coming into the game against Ozark. One of the questions that we had, when they went on to face the Hillbillies is who's going to be healthy. COVID has been one of the things where you can take a top-notch team and just kind of strip away the talent, if you will. And so that may have been what happened to Pocahontas last week against Ozark, but you have to give the Hillbillies credit. They are a very good football team. Big quarterback and Harper Falconberry. He can definitely run. He can throw it around a little bit. So Ozark's a good team in and of themselves, and we don't want to take away from what they can do. But I did expect that game to be a little closer.
Yeah, I did too. I felt like Ozark might have played their best game of the year last weekend. We'd like to remind you that open enrollment for Medicare is October 15th through December 7th. Call Giroux and Associates for help with your Medicare plan. There are several new plans available for 2021. Giroux and Associates and his agents all across the state who specialize in helping you with your Medicare needs. Call Mike Giroux at 1-888-360-8611 to schedule an appointment. Bill, moving in down the bracket here, you got Nashville really put one on Elkins this weekend. That's a big win. And Warren and Arkadelphia, what an all-name matchup that was. Warren takes the victory. We said, hey, watch out there for the Lumberjacks. Now, in a quarterfinal matchup, you've got Warren versus Nashville.
And that's an ugly team. Listen, anytime you take on the Scrappers or the Lumberjacks, you can expect a long bus ride home because normally those two teams are usually the hosts all the way through the finals. But Nashville, the Scrappers, a big-time win over the Elks of Elkins, 48-6. And then Warren took on a very good Arkadelphia team and took it to them 35-20. So Warren continues to roll.
Rivercrest with a 48-23 victory over Prairie Grove, and Crossit takes a 28-20 victory over Monticello. Going to be a fun matchup there. Rivercrest and Crossit. Man, I feel like Rivercrest right now has just got it going on. With Cam Turner and Mr. Scott over there, they just really have too much for just about anybody. I feel like that they've got a really good shot of making it into the semifinals, where it looks like they'd have to travel most likely if Nashville were to win. You'd have a Nashville Rivercrest matchup. What a matchup that could be. But right now it's going to be a fun matchup for Rivercrest and Crossit this week.
That's it. I think Rivercrest and Crossit, it's going to be a good game. Like you said, Rivercrest is one of the best teams in 4A, if not the best, in my opinion. Of course, you do have Dumas up there. You always can't count out Shiloh Christian. And then Ozark and Stuttgart. I mean, you got to talk about those who are still left. There are a lot of big-time names in Class 4A that are still on the table, and you certainly have to include Rivercrest in that discussion.
Yeah, Stuttgart as well. I mean, Stuttgart, I don't want to give too much away with what we talked about with Josh Price, but 0-10 last year, moving in, just defeated the team that was the favorite by everybody to win the state championship in 4A. You got to say some good things about the Ricebirds, no doubt. Moving on into 3A action, Harding Academy and Boonville are going to match up this week. That's going to be a fun one there. Harding Academy took a 45-14 victory over Jessieville, while Boonville and Osceola slugged it out at Boonville. Boonville won 10-7.
That sounds like a great defensive ball game when just a field goal settles the score. Boonville's a good team. You never want to face the Bearcats in the playoffs either. They're just kind of like Nashville to me. I grew up in Atkins, and seemed like it was almost every year we would go to the playoffs, and it would either be Boonville or Nashville that would knock us out of the playoffs. And so you don't want to see the Boonville Bearcats on your plate in the playoffs, and that's what it looks like Harding Academy is going to have to do.
Glen Rose and Center Point will match up. All Southwest Arkansas matchup there. Glen Rose with the 21-14 victory at Charleston. Big win there by the Beavers. They're a tough matchup anytime you see them. Center Point is a team that you don't hear a lot about a lot of the times, but they picked up the 47-27 victory over Camden Harmony Grove. That's a big win anytime that you can beat Camden Harmony Grove.
It is. Camden Harmony Grove is a good football team. Center Point, I think a lot of people didn't really give them much, thought they were going to win that game, and they won it by 20. So it's a good win for Center Point over a good Harmony Grove team. And it's going to be interesting to see the Glen Rose matchup with Center Point. That's going to be a big one.
Absolutely going to be huge there. We're going to get a Prescott and Mcgee matchup. What a matchup that is in 3A. Prescott 52-16 over Melbourne. Mcgee 42-7 over Lincoln. I think you could make an argument that these are the two best teams in 3A. I think Harding Academy, you got to throw them in there. Maybe Hoxie as well. But Prescott-Mcgee, a quarterfinal matchup, you can't get much better than that.
You certainly can't. Those Curly Wolves from Prescott, they know how to score some points. They did it to Melbourne last week. Mcgee, on the other hand, they like to score some points as well. Good run-based offense usually. Misdirection kind of runs that kind of a wing T kind of look. And, Lincoln, of course, you remember a couple of weeks ago, they went to Atkins and had a big win over the Red Devils. And so Lincoln had a lot of momentum going into that game, but, the Owls were too much for them to handle.
Yes, they were. And that's tough trip. But you got to make all the way from Lincoln to Mcgee. Not very much further in Arkansas can you even travel.
Right.
Those two are so far apart. Hoxie 48, Newport 28. That says a lot about Hoxie, how good that they are. Paris 35-12. You got a Paris and Hoxie matchup. Fantastic quarterfinal matchup here that we have in the top 8 of 3A.
That's going to be a big one. Paris has had a very, very successful season, arguably one of the best in school history. And they went to Greenland. Of course, you remember they have Jed Dennis over in Greenland. Big-time running back, was leading the state kind of off and on. They go back and forth between, Jed Dennis and what was that guy's name? Help me out here. The running back of Enrollment. Kadich, that's it. Kadich, they'd kind of go back and forth on who was leading the state in rushing yards, and so Paris was able to shut down that rushing attack and take down Greenland. So Paris, the Eagles, they're a pretty good ball team, and you start talking about who's the best in the state. Well, Paris doesn't carry that name recognition where it's a traditional, year in and year out powerhouse, for example, like Boonville does. But Paris this year is trying to make a name for themselves, and Hoxie's going to have their hands full with the Eagles.
And Paris has Duke Walker, Missouri baseball commitment. So obviously he's got some good things going for him over there at Paris. Ozark transfer there, and they are glad to have him there at Paris. Paris having a fantastic year this year with only one loss. Well, that's going to wrap it up for the first segment. I want you to stay tuned with us here as we are going to talk to Kyle Sutherland. We're going to talk to Josh Price. And then we've also got some primetime performers that we want to talk to you about here. Got plenty of show left for you. So stay with us here on Primetime Preps. We'll be back right after this.
Here, in the heart of the River Valley, is St. Mary's Regional Health System. Here is the area's most comprehensive range of medical services, along with advanced treatment options and responsive emergency care. Here is our team of more than 900 professionals who bring healthcare to life through people caring for people. And it is here where you can count on St. Mary's to always be, because to us, community matters. For more than 90 years, our investment in our community has been unmatched, and today that couldn't be stronger. St. Mary's, we're here for you.
Open enrollment for Medicare is October the 15th through December the 7th. Call Giroux and Associates for help with your Medicare plan. There are several new plans available for 2021. Giroux and Associates has agents all across the state of Arkansas who specialize in helping you with your Medicare needs. Protect your most valuable asset, yourself. Call Mike Giroux at 888-360-8611 to schedule an appointment today.
Here, in the heart of the River Valley, is St. Mary's Regional Health System. Here is the area's most comprehensive range of medical services, along with advanced treatment options and responsive emergency care. Here is our team of more than 900 professionals who bring healthcare to life through people caring for people. And it is here where you can count on St. Mary's to always be, because to us, community matters. For more than 90 years, our investment in our community has been unmatched, and today that couldn't be stronger. St. Mary's, we're here for you.
Open enrollment for Medicare is October the 15th through December the 7th. Call Giroux and Associates for help with your Medicare plan. There are several new plans available for 2021. Giroux and Associates has agents all across the state of Arkansas who specialize in helping you with your Medicare needs. Protect your most valuable asset, yourself. Call Mike Giroux at 888-360-8611 to schedule an appointment today.
Here, in the heart of the River Valley, is St. Mary's Regional Health System. Here is the area's most comprehensive range of medical services, along with advanced treatment options and responsive emergency care. Here is our team of more than 900 professionals who bring healthcare to life through people caring for people. And it is here where you can count on St. Mary's to always be, because to us, community matters. For more than 90 years, our investment in our community has been unmatched, and today that couldn't be stronger. St. Mary's, we're here for you.
Open enrollment for Medicare is October the 15th through December the 7th. Call Giroux and Associates for help with your Medicare plan. There are several new plans available for 2021. Giroux and Associates has agents all across the state of Arkansas who specialize in helping you with your Medicare needs. Protect your most valuable asset, yourself. Call Mike Giroux at 888-360-8611 to schedule an appointment today.
Welcome back to the final segment of Primetime Preps. Brad Caldwell, Bill Harshaw here as we bring you all things Primetime in high school sports, high school football winding up here as the playoffs are just getting really good, especially in the 3A and 4A classes. And then we've got the state finals here this week in the 7A and 6A. We'll have finals action next week with 5A and 2A. We touched on it before. We'll touch on it a little bit again. This is just a time that people didn't think that we were going to get to, especially early in the season. Not even sure if we were even going to have a season. So congratulations to everybody, that we get a chance to crown some champions, something that we did not get a chance to do in the spring with basketball, although we did crown a couple champions outright and then dual champions in the rest of the classifications. So we're excited about that. We're going to try to be there at some of these games. And Bill, it's going to be a great weekend in high school sports as these finals come in, and then also semifinals and quarterfinals in other classes.
It's going to be a big weekend. You're absolutely correct, because we have some of the biggest matchups in high school in the state of Arkansas this week. We're looking at a couple of rematches, particularly in 7A, a team that, Bryant and North Little Rock, if we're going to kind of throw that name out there since we're kind of alluding to it, they played a couple weeks ago. We were at that game. We kind of got a preview of this. Now, we can always say about what happened previously, but you and I both know that it's hard to beat a team twice.
It is. It's tough, and Bryant is going to have their hands full. But then I asked myself, can anybody stop Bryant? And, Bryant's got a chance to do something that nobody else has ever done. I say nobody else has ever done it. It hasn't been done in 30 years, I should say. That winning 3 straight in the biggest classification hasn't happened since Pine Bluff did it 93 through 95. Some of the big-time teams that they had there, I think Basil Shabazz was on one of those teams. Legendary high school football name in Arkansas. But, Bill, the thing that sticks out to me in this game is that Bryant went for over 800 yards. You didn't hear, that was not a mistake. You didn't hear that incorrectly. Bryant went for 800 yards against North Little Rock and beat them, 58-21, I think was the final score. In a game that was actually close for just a little bit. North Little Rock in the middle of the second quarter looked like they could have had a chance to take the momentum, but boy, once Bryant got it back, boy, that was tough. And Hayden Schrader did a great job there, and just everybody there at Bryant, they just did a wonderful job in that game. And again, I just feel like they're going to be tough to watch.
I think you're absolutely correct. We saw them take on North Little Rock at North Little Rock several weeks back, and like I said, it was a bloodbath. 800 yards of offense put up against the charging Wildcats that night. And, Bryant could have picked their final score. I mean, they could have done just about whatever they wanted. But North Little Rock in that first and maybe halfway through that second quarter of play, North Little Rock was matching them blow for blow and even took the lead over Bryant in that game. So if that momentum can be maintained, or if Bryant, we don't want any injuries to happen or any sicknesses or illnesses to happen. But, we mentioned that, a couple of pieces come out of that cogwheel, the whole wheel may fall apart. And, that may be the only chance that North Rock has at this point, because Bryant is a very well-coached ball club. Buck James has them going in the right direction without a doubt. And it's a well-oiled machine, and you don't find they have all their square pieces and all their square holes.
And we'd like to remind you that you need to go and rate our podcast, let people know that you like what we got going on here at Primetime Preps. We're trying to get, talk about everybody that we can, get those names mentioned, get everybody out there. So give us a 5-star rating there. And like I said, if you don't have a 5-star, don't give it to us. We want that 5-star. That's what we want. Moving on into the 6A, Greenwood and Lake Hamilton, again, 2 conference foes matching up here for the state championship. Again, it's just not quite what we think with Bryant. Bryant's head and shoulders above everybody. I think Lake Hamilton, it has an opportunity to win this ball game, but it's still going to be tough.
It's going to be very, very tough. Greenwood is one of the premier teams in the state. They're making their 13th trip to the state finals in the past, 12 seasons or so. It is the first appearance for the new head coach, so that's going to be interesting to see how they do that. But Lake Hamilton, I think, has been right on their heels all season long. They did take it to Greenwood. I believe Greenwood did beat Lake Hamilton earlier in the season. But Lake Hamilton, Owen Miller, Tevin Woodley, 2 top-notch performers, and they've been able to rush the football pretty much whatever they want to do. It's a good 1-2 combination. They kind of remind me, as far as their versatility, kind of like a McFadden-Felix Jones matchup where you got a 2-headed beast and you can't key on either one of them.
Yeah, it's tough there, but at the same time, these running offenses are tough to stop. But then when you find a team like Greenwood, they're just fast enough. They're just big enough. They're just tough enough. It's going to be difficult. But, 38-28 was the final score at Smith Robinson Stadium earlier this year. I feel like that this is not a game that is a total mismatch where Lake Hamilton cannot win. I think that they can. I just think it's still – you're talking about a team that has tradition behind them. 9 out of the last 12 state championship appearances that Greenwood has made, Greenwood has won. So it's really tough. It's tough to beat the Bulldogs when they get there, and they're hungry for one. Hadn't won one in a couple years. They don't like to go 2 years in a row without winning one there at Greenwood. So I feel like that they've got an opportunity there to do some good things and possibly win another state championship, which will be their 10th since 2000. Let that sink in. They've won half of all the state championships that they participated in that class since 2000. And they went from 2000 to 2008, I believe, between the 2 championships. That was when Tyler Wilson brought them back. And ever since then, think about that. They've won 8 state championships since 2008.
That's impressive. Greenwood has that history. They have that culture where they expect to win these things. They're used to winning these things. And Lake Hamilton is in that position where they're kind of on the outside looking in, and they want desperately to win this. And I think they have a chance. I think if anyone, you mentioned who can take down Bryant. I think if you ask the same question to Greenwood, well, who could take down Greenwood? Not including kind of leaving out the fact that Lake Hamilton's the only team left that can do it. But I do think that Lake Hamilton has a shot at doing that. They have to play almost a perfect game, have to have the great game plan going into it. But I think Lake Hamilton does have a chance of doing it. But Greenwood is a very, very tough beast and to take down, and I would not be surprised if Greenwood won it.
Moving on into the 5A, the mad scientist, Kevin Kelly, has just got PA rolling down there, and you talk about a dynasty. That's another dynasty that we got going in the state of Arkansas right now. And, the reason I say he's a mad scientist, I've never seen this happen ever, as far as I can tell, football on the college level, professional level, high school level, where you have two quarterbacks that are splitting time fairly evenly. And you've got one of them, Nolan Bruffett, has passed for 1,711 yards and 19 touchdowns, while Charlie Pfizer, the junior, has thrown for 2,517 yards, 36 touchdowns for the Bruins. Now, Bill, I know that we've seen two quarterback systems before. I'm not sure I've ever seen one utilized like this.
No, I don't think I have either. I think this is one of the interesting things because normally when you have, that split in quarterbacks, I mean, obviously as a former center, I can tell you right now, you're going to have some fumbled snaps at the, fumbles of the football at the snap. That hasn't really happened here for the Bruins. The other thing that you traditionally see when you have players splitting time at that position is one of them will come in for to throw the football. The defense recognizes it and plays, the pass defense. The other one comes in as an option quarterback and is more of the running threat. But both of these guys are throwing the football successfully. So, as a defense, it doesn't matter if it's Bruffett in or if it's Pfizer in. You don't know what you're going to get. And I think that's what makes this a really tricky situation for anybody that's taking on the Bruins.
And junior Joe Hyman is a name that you are hearing quite a bit of. And, the kid is fast as lightning. He's had 165 carries, 1,893 yards, and 20 touchdowns. Also 63 receptions, 746 yards, and 8 touchdowns. Is that good?
That's good. That's pretty darn good. I mean, he's almost at 2,000 yards rushing, which that in and of itself is a tremendous accomplishment. But also, 300, 250 yards shy of 1,000 in the receiving end. So, I mean, Joe Hyman, we've mentioned his name on this show several times. And, I think we're going to mention him later on in the primetime performers. Is you look at what he did last week, throwing the football, 13 of 19, 162 yards and 4 touchdowns last week. So Pfizer's able to get some good eye-popping and primetime numbers on the board.
Wynn is not going to put up the same numbers that Pulaski Academy is, and there's just very few teams that do. But they still have guys like Arterius Ross and Carl Washington, Cameron Holmes, Devin Holmes, Alonzo Holmes. That's a nice trio there of family there. They've got some good things going on there at Wynn. Wynn's not going to come in here and lay down. I can promise you that. They're not going to lay down. They're going to come in and they're going to fight and, try to get that momentum rolling. You just have to adjust to PA's style of play. This is really tough to do.
It is, and it's one of those that, you mentioned, the style of play that they have. They're not going to punt the football. They're not going to, they're going to go for it on fourth down. They want to use every one of their downs to convert. And that when you don't have to, it's hard to prepare for that because, normally you say, hey, if we can just force a 3 and out, we can win this thing. Well, with PA, you got to force a 4 and done, and in a turnover on downs, because statistically the coach knows that, you go for it, you might get it. And he likes to keep those drives alive, which helps make those stats that we're seeing from Bruffett and Pfizer. That's what helps them make those catches and throws is, because they're on the field for 4 downs at least.
Little Rock Christian and Harrison's going to host the Warriors. Number one, you got to feel good about that if you're Harrison, getting a chance to host a semifinal game. Like Harrison had an opportunity a couple years back to beat Pulaski Academy. Harrison was a fantastic team in 2018, I believe. Not to say that they weren't any good in any other year. They have been fantastic. But that year, they took a fourth quarter lead, I believe, against Pulaski Academy. Pulaski Academy prevailed 75-54 in that game. But it was a barn burner there at Little Rock or at Harrison. Another chance to be a barn burner as Harrison tries to get into the state finals for the first time since 2000, I think. Don't quote me on that, Harrison folks, but I believe that it's pretty close to that. 99 maybe.
And Harrison, they are a tough team to beat in and of themselves. So Little Rock Christian, you start looking at like common opponents that these two teams have. Magnolia is one of them. Harrison beat Magnolia 42-35 in week 1. Magnolia lost. I'm sorry, Little Rock Christian lost to Magnolia 52-49. So a close loss by Little Rock Christian week 2. So there's one win that Harrison has that Little Rock Christian was not able to beat. Harrison also beat Clarksville 49-20 in week 9. And you're looking at Clarksville being beat by Little Rock Christian 48-19 in week 12. So we're seeing some similar scores there. And then Whitehall, they had a narrow win by against Whitehall last week. And then Little Rock Christian beat Whitehall 38-14 back in week 5. So they say never compare scores, but I like to do that.
That's what we're going to do.
That's exactly what we're going to do. We're going to look at those scores and kind of compare. And kind of looking at it, the only one that really jumps out as a big, difference was obviously the win versus the loss, respectively, to Magnolia. The Clarksville, that's almost a bang for bang score. And then we have that Whitehall score, which was a little more lopsided. But I think this is going to be a good ball game.
Cole Kaelin for Harrison, 3,499 total yards this year. Maybe the best numbers outside of Cam Turner. 2,432 yards passing, 1,067 yards rushing. Noah Moix has 30 catches, 972 yards, and 13 touchdowns for the Goblins. Little Rock Christian's averaging 46 points a game this year, and you got Javian Dyer Jones ran for 14 times for 126 yards and 2 touchdowns against Lakeside. 52-14 victory last week. This is going to be a barn burner, and I promise you there's going to be some scoring at Harrison this weekend.
There's going to be some fun scoring. I think that would be a game to watch for sure. I really would like to be at that game. I think that was going to be, like you said, a barn burner.
Yes, it is. And, man, we've got so much to cover here. We're going to have to cut it short pretty quick. But let's get to it real quick. In the 4A, you got quarterfinal matchups. Just touching on these, Bill, here. You've got Ozark and Stuttgart, two all-name teams that met in the 2012 state finals. Ozark, they're a really, really good football team. But I tell you what, man, I just feel like right now the Ricebirds have turned it completely around, and I think they're going to be tough to beat at Stuttgart this week.
I think you're right. Stuttgart hosting that football game, and the Hillbillies are going to go in there against the Ricebirds, and they have all the momentum. Stuttgart does, and I think that one's going to be a good one. If we were picking this game, I would pick Stuttgart.
Shiloh Christian hosting Dumas. This one seems to be a little bit of a mismatch here with Shiloh. Of course, there's just not very many teams that Shiloh's not a mismatch for, Prairie Grove being one of those. It's been 10 years since Shiloh's won a state championship, believe it or not. They used to win, it seemed like every year. 3 straight championships in 08, 9, and 10, I believe, or 9, 10, and 11, somewhere in there. They beat Malvern, a very good team. Last week, 28-0. Stuttgart, Dumas, I feel maybe a bit overmatched in this one, but they've got a stud in their self with Kaelin James.
Yeah, Kaelin James, we mentioned him earlier. He is a stud. Running back had 24 carries, 287 yards, and 5 touchdowns last week. So I think if you're Shiloh Christian, that's who you want to key on. You want to shut down Kaelin James, who numbers have shown he's been on our boards, our primetime performers several times this year. And I think if you can shut down James, you have a shot at beating Dumas.
I'll tell you what, this next matchup, Bill, is an all-name game for sure. Warren taking on Nashville. At Nashville, you just Class 4A football, it just really doesn't get better than that.
No, you don't have better name recognition anywhere in the state of Arkansas than Warren and Nashville. When those two teams match up, you're going to play some national football. Now, both of these teams have been known to throw it around a little bit. We also are going to see a lot of familiar names on certain schools' sidelines in the college ranks that you would have seen on those two teams previously. So they are known to not only win games, but also produce some top-notch athletes. And both of these teams traditionally in the right direction. I think that's going to be the biggest game, in my opinion, other than Stuttgart and Ozark. I think as far as name recognition goes, we're in Nashville. That's going to be a big one.
Cross at Rivercrest, we've talked about Cam Turner many times this year. He's thrown for 2,795 yards, 36 touchdowns, rushed for just shy of 1,500 yards. Keyshawn Scott has received 1,300 yards on 68 catches, 18 touchdowns. I mean, Crossett beat Osceola 26-20 earlier this year in the very first week. Rivercrest beat them 55-27. I feel like that the advantage belongs with the Colts.
I agree. I think the Colts, we've seen them in person. I do think that Keyshawn Scott, he's hard to shut down. He can find a way to get open against coverages that most people can't. And then you got the quarterback, Cam Turner. He can make throws that a lot of people can't. He can run the football like a lot of people can't. So I think Cam Turner, that in and of itself, just with the big-time athletes that Rivercrest has, I think I would give them the upper hand in that matchup.
Moving on into the 3A here, we've touched on quite a bit of this. Center Point Glen Rose, all Southwest Arkansas matchup there. Big-time matchup, all-name matchup here, Bill. Boonville at Harding Academy.
Boonville and Harding Academy, that is going to be a slobber knocker. Harding Academy, one of the best teams in the state, taking on a Boonville team who is traditionally a powerhouse. Boonville has won a lot of good games this year, but Harding Academy really hasn't been tested too much. I like Harding Academy. I think that's going to be a big one in 3A.
Prescott and Mcgee, another big-time matchup in the 3A. Prescott just seems to be too good, and I'm not sure they're not the best team in 3A. I think you've called that already yourself, Bill. But Mcgee is going to go in there. They're not going to lay down. And, Prescott is scoring 52 points a game this year.
Yeah, Prescott's putting up the numbers, but Mcgee is hard to stop. The style of offense that they run, their backfield, if you get a chance to see them in person, you'll see that their backfield is very congested. Those guys are almost hip to hip, and when they're both shifting in the same direction and the quarterback's turning, as a defender, you don't really know who's going to get that ball until they're already past you. So that's the challenge for Mcgee, where when you're taking on Mcgee is just figuring out who's got the football. Prescott, they do it a different way. They'll rather throw it down your throat and run it down your throat, but they are able to put up some big-time numbers. Mcgee is more of a defensive battle. I think they can run the clock. They can control the time of possession, and that would be if I'm a Mcgee fan, that's what I'm wanting to see happen is let's limit the time that Prescott has the ball so that they don't score 52, because that's going to be hard to overcome.
Paris at Hoxie. Paris is making the quarterfinals for the first time since 2012. Went to Boonville, played them very, very tough. Hoxie, though, seems to be on a different level.
I think Hoxie is on a different level, but Paris, I think, we're going to find out what Paris is made of this week. Paris has taken on a couple of good teams, in 3A. They've also taken on some good teams in 2A and destroyed them. But, Paris is kind of having a Cinderella season, if you will, one that's, for the record books in Paris. And I don't want to see the Paris fairy tale end by any means, but traveling to Hoxie is going to be a tough one for the Eagles.
Most definitely going to be really, really tough there. Moving down into the 2A, they're in the semifinals. We've already touched on a little bit. We've got Ozark and Junction City. That is a rematch of the 2013 state finals where Junction City won 60-0. Obviously, that has no bearing on this matchup, but just a fun factoid. Junction City's in the state semifinals now for the 16th time in 20 years. We talked about dynasties. Junction City is one of those type of dynasties. And again, it's just one of those teams that you're really, really tough to see, but you're down to the semifinals. So it's going to be tough no matter what.
It's going to be tough no matter what. You're absolutely correct. But Junction City, the Dragons, going to Ozark, and that may be the determining factor on where this game is played. I always like to give at least a little bit of credit to the home team. And in this case, Ozark being the home team, it's going to be a tough challenge for Junction City to go in and do what they are used to doing all season long, which is just running over opponents. That's not going to happen for Junction City this week. I think that's going to be a good game.
The great name, the Go Devils, the Gurdon Go Devils, number 1 versus number 2 in the semifinals. Doesn't seem necessarily right. You feel like you want to see this one in the finals, but Fordyce is traveling to Gurdon. Our guy, Kyle Sutherland, talked about he's going to be at this one. This is going to be a fun matchup at Gurdon on Friday night.
It definitely is going to be fun. These are two of the top-notch teams that when you think of 2A football in the state of Arkansas, you got to talk about Fordyce and Gurdon. This is one also, you know, kind of like the last game that we talked about with Ozark. You know, this game is at Gurdon. It's going to be tough for Fordyce, but I think Fordyce is just are they in, again, a league of their own? This is the team. This is the matchup in 2A, Fordyce at Gurdon. That would be one that I would like to be at as well. I can't be in all these games.
I know, man.
Right? I don't know what
know.
we're going to do. How do we go to all these games at the same time?
Well, we turn on their streams. That's one thing that we
There
can
you
do.
go.
And we'll try to put them out there on the Arkansas Sports Network if we can find them. You can look on Facebook and check that out. The Arkansas Sports Network. If you haven't gone to like that, go like that along with the hit that line Arkansas Network there on Facebook as they stream us live. Well, I'll say stream us live. That's not true. They premiere us. That's the better way to put it, on Wednesdays. So please go over there and give them a like and, you know, participate in all the things that we got going on here. Well, we're going to wrap the show up here, Bill, with some primetime performers. One of my favorite parts of the show, just talking about these kids and getting them some recognition about what they have done over the last week. And, you know, Tyler G is a guy that we have talked about many times this year. He had a huge year for the Cabot Panthers, and he went 26-36, 492 and 4 touchdowns. In his final high school game, he'll be moving on to play at UCA next season. That's
it. We talked to Tyler G last week, I believe it was. Had just an outstanding kid, outstanding athlete. I hate to see his season end on a down note, but only one team's going to win it all. Tyler G, though, 26 of 36, 492 yards, 4 touchdowns. That is a primetime performance.
Cole Kaelin, another guy. We've had him on the show. We've had Tyler. We've had Cole. Makes you feel pretty good, Bill. We seem to be doing something right here. Cole Kaelin, 10 of 12, 149, 2 touchdowns, 17 carries, 145, and 1 touchdown in their victory last week.
Yeah, Cole Kaelin is hard to stop. Harrison definitely has a key athlete with Cole Kaelin. We'll see how his career ends at Harrison this week. But a great performance last week for Cole Kaelin.
Jacoby Nolan for Prescott, senior quarterback, threw for 269, 3 touchdowns, 8 carries, 39 yards, and a touchdown. You're seeing a lot of this, new age offense here, Bill, where the quarterback runs the ball. And Mr. Nolan is one of those guys.
He's one of those guys, got in the end zone 4 different times last week for Prescott, 11 out of 17 in the passing field. It's a great performance by Nolan, and he continues to roll. But then the next guy on the list is somebody we see almost on a weekly basis. We've seen him in person. We've had him on the show as well, and that's Cam Turner.
Cam Turner, 13 of 17, 108 yards, 2 touchdowns. But get this, 21 carries, 253 yards, and 2 touchdowns. And like you said, we saw him in person for the first time, he and Keyshawn Scott. And, man, those guys are fantastic football players there at Rivercrest. And what sets that team apart, just the speed, overall speed. And they've got other guys besides those 2 as well.
That's it.
4 stud wide receivers there. And Turner, he may not be the highest recruited kid in the state, but I feel like he's having the best year of anybody in the state.
And I think he may also be one of the most underestimated guys in the state. I think he deserves more credit than what he's getting.
Charlie Pfizer, PA, we talked about he, splitting time at quarterback there, 13 of 19 passing, 162 yards and 4 touchdowns, and their win over Magnolia.
And that's a primetime performance right there against a star-studded team in Magnolia. They're a good team in and of themselves, but Charlie Pfizer able to take out 13 and 19, 162 and 4 touchdowns. That is fun.
A young team, by the way, over there at Magnolia. We'll be watching for them next year. Hayden Schrader, 7 catches. You want to talk about underrated. This guy's underrated.
Yes,
210
sir.
and 4 touchdowns. Man, I just watched this kid. He reminds me of Jay Novacek with Dallas way back in the day, just the way he plays. Maybe it's his number even. I don't know. But he's just a really, really good-looking player there.
Nobody can make number 84 look so good. And I'm telling you, Hayden Schrader's doing it. Out of the tight end position, you don't see a lot of teams utilize that tight end quite the way that Bryant does. But Hayden Schrader, 7 catches, 210 and 4 touchdowns. It was the Hayden Schrader show last week.
Colin James, 24 carries, 287 and 5 touchdowns. I mean, Shiloh's got their hands full with this Dumas Bobcat.
That's right. Kaelin James been on the show several times this year as well. And anytime you touch the end zone 5 different times, that's going to catch our eyes, and it certainly did this week. Dumas continues to roll. We'll see what they do this week.
Joe Hyman, junior running back at Pulaski Academy, 13 carries, 204, 2 touchdowns, 3 receptions, 42 yards, and a touchdown. A kid that we have seen quite a few times in these primetime performers.
That's right. Joe Hyman has been on the show many times in our performers as well. And he's one of those multi-faceted guys who can run it, he can catch it. Wouldn't be surprised if he could throw it. But he was definitely getting things done for PA last week. And PA needs him to perform again this week.
Well, Bill, I'm looking forward to next week, man. It's been a while. Hopefully we could get back together. We haven't even had a live broadcast with Pottsville in quite a while. So it's going to be good to get back with you and the crew here next week as we get things kicked off for basketball. We're still going to be following state football finals, as well as we will have 2 crowned football champions. This time next week, there's going to be a lot to talk about as we move into, transition pretty quickly here on Primetime Prep. So, Bill, good show today. We'll talk to you next week.
All right. Sounds good, Brad.
All right. So for Bill, I'm Brad saying so long. We will see you next week here on Primetime Preps.